Welcome back to another episode of Tough Garage, guys. What we're going to be working on today is installing these seats. Now, you avid viewers would have seen in a previous episode many moons ago that I had a different set of seats installed in the Cortina, but I never quite liked the way they felt and the way they looked compared to the rest of the style of the car that I'm going for. So they sat a little high, they were very bulky in the shoulders, very racy looking, and in the end it wasn't quite the style I was after. Ended up selling them off and offloading them and getting a set of these. These are ED XR8 Falcon seats. They suit the style a little better. They're a Scheel replica as far as I understand, so they've got all the extra bolstering and everything. But what I like the most is the headrest. The headrests look exactly like the TF Cortina and XD style seats which these cars came out with. So they've got the actual gap. The other Scheels that come out with different headrests have a solid headrest and it sits a little lower. So hence why I got these. But we need to put them in the car, so let's get cracking. We'll take a quick look at these just to show you how they sort of look. So I like the padding style here on the base, the way it comes out here, the way the sides sort of sit up so they tend to hug you a bit more, as well as the back. Really nice style. I don't think I'll be sticking with this seat covering. Obviously it's very late 80s, early 90s, but the actual frame and carcass of it, I guess, is exactly what I'm after. They're a little worse for wear. This is the driver's side. The passenger side is in much better nick, but that doesn't really bother me. They're going to get completely restored. Clear evidence some big unit has sat on these seats previously. Completely tore this bottom support out. Wow, look at that. Okay, seat rails are off, and what I didn't tell you guys is I've already done one of these seats. So the only difference with these is that because they have the height adjustment, they're actually mounted differently. So they're actually mounted on these two little sideways brackets, like that. The other ones are just mounted flat off here, directly into the base of the seat. So these are a little bit different. What I did on the other ones is I lobbed off completely the original mounts and made my own, because none of these actually worked at all for my situation. So for the Cortina floor, these don't work at all. They're completely different and just don't suit. So I was best off removing them completely and just making a set of my own. So that's what I'm going to do now. Lob these off, then I'll double check the measurements and compare them to the passenger side. Make sure they're exactly the same, and then go about making the mounts. Okay, there's the bare seat rails with all the mounts detached, all the little blind rivets removed, and nice flat surfaces to put the new mount. The Cortinas have this brace that goes from inside sill panel to inside sill panel and is braced to the floor. They're exactly where the seats go. Now, with the previous seats, I was running some EK Civic seat rails. The reason I was running EK Civic seat rails were they were the lowest seat rail I could find at the time. So they were hard up against the floor here, hard up against there. So I had to channel them out, channel this brace out to get the angle correct. I no longer need to do that with these other seats. So I'm gonna cut this section out, put another piece in the same thickness as this back in, weld it in, put a plate on the top of that, weld that in so it's dead flush, which is exactly what I've done on the passenger side, and it gets me back to where I should have been, I guess, with a standard Cortina. So the Cortina seats mount at the front there, so they've got a little hole, little bolt goes here, as you can see, and then the backs just go a bolt or a stud through the floor. So the Cortina seat rails had the stud in the actual rail, and you just sort of located that and then put a bolt through the front and located the seats that way. I've done that in the passenger side one, so this one runs a stud and this one runs a bolt. So that's the only difference. Okay, this is the little wooden template that I use in place of the seat. So basically the seat rails mount onto this wood. The holes that are drilled on this wood are the exact same size and spacing apart as the actual seat. So when you put the seat rails on, it's as if the spacing is exactly the same, so it makes it easier just to, you know, put in and out. Instead of putting the seat in and out, you just put in this wood. I've made a center marking, you know, for referencing. So I've ended up having to do a little bit of changing on this one compared to the passenger side. So I did the passenger side first, mainly just because of the access. So as you can see, the car has room on that side. On this side, not so much. So did the passenger side. I thought where it was good. I sat in it, I was happy with that. But when I did the same to the driver's side seat mounts in a mirror image, they were about 30 to 40 mil too far away from the center of the steering column. So the center of the steering wheel, they were too far out towards the sill panel and too far away from the center of the car. So what I've done is, you can see from here now, it's actually only 10 mil off. Any further and it actually rubs on the console. 10 mil is okay with me. I don't know if you guys can see it from here, but the actual steering column, actually from the point of where it's on the firewall, it actually points out towards the outside of the car. Just a tiny bit, but it's actually angled. So it's a weird sort of thing, but when you drive Cortinas you get used to it. Actually you don't really notice it at all, to tell you the truth. But, so what I've done, that's the center point there, that little white mark, and the center here is only 10 mil off. So not much, and it's good. I still get clearance when the console's in. If I'm going to use this seatbelt mount is from the actual seat. So the seatbelt catch comes off here, whereas the Cortina ones go on the floor and have like a long sort of steel cable, so it's a bit more flexible and stuff like that.
I'm not sure which one I'm going to end up using. I probably will end up using the Cortina one. I just want to make sure that it reaches far enough so that it actually catches in the right spot and not behind the seat or anything like that, where it's going to be constantly rubbing on the side of the seat and the material. Alright, so what I ended up having to do was change one of the mounts. One of them was this one, so I changed the design of that and cutting down this one and then just moving that one. Luckily I've just tacked them all on, so it's just a matter of removing the tacks and re-tacking back on. So what I'm going to do now is pull this apart, do the same to the passenger side. So the passenger side is actually 30mm closer towards the center, so it's in the exact same spot, which is going to be 98mm from this point to this edge of the wood. That's my reference points anyway. So I'll just do that and then we're done and we can completely weld them and finalize it. And just like that, they're all done. Yeah, right. It took a hell of a lot of work. So as you can see, this is the seat lying down like that, just so I can show you guys. That's the front one of one side. These are the low sides. This stud or bolt has been welded from the inside of the rail, so it doesn't spin, doesn't move. So this part sits dead flat on the floor, so it can't go any lower on this side. And then I had to make the stands, or the stood up ones, on the other side. So I changed the design up a little bit just because I needed to move the seats further towards the inside of the car, so I ended up with this design. So you can see the gussets that I've put on there just to give them a bit of strength, top and bottom, as you can see. So they don't flex, they don't move, they don't do anything. They're actually very, very solid. It's 3mm plate. All the holes are drilled out and they fit really nice. So I've done the exact same thing to the passenger side one, so I'm not going to show you that because it's, like I said, exactly the same. It's just a mirror image. So this one sits really nicely now as well. I've moved that one further towards the center of the car, so it's in the exact same spot as the driver's side. But really happy with them. I'm just going to put them in now, guys, and I'll show you what they look like once they're in. Oh, before I forget, ended up finding the original Cortina seat rail nuts. So this is what they look like, but I'm gonna have to change the actual stud on here because this is metric and this is 5/16 imperial. So I'll just cut the two little welds out of that, pull that stud out, get the right 5/16 bolt to the same thing, weld it in, and then I can use these actual original Ford nuts. They're like a special little thing. I don't know why they've designed this way, but might as well use something that has been, you know, R&D'd by Ford, I guess. It's probably the best way to do it. And I believe these are the front bolts. After looking them up because I couldn't remember what they looked like, so I found only one of these, but I have to go through my stash of Cortina parts. Yes, there's a whole Cortina in that crate plus in the shed, so I'll slowly go through those bags of bolts and stuff and see. Hopefully I've got stuff that's labelled front seats or whatever, and find the other three that I need of these. Otherwise I'll order them online and then use them as well. Alright, let's see how they look. Alright, and there they are, guys, all done, all in place, all working perfectly. So, exactly what I was after. The backrest rolls back
I haven't tested the height adjustment. I don't need to do that just now. I can do that later on. But as for how they sit and being in place, they're really good. I tested them with the center console. They clear nicely. I still don't know how I'm going to go with the actual seat belt if I mount it on this seat rail, which has got the little bracket that's actually on the seat rail for the seat belt catch. I might still have to use the original Cortina one that sits on the floor and comes up like a braided steel sort of setup, and it's got the little catch on the end, so it's a bit more flexible and lets you move it around a bit more. I might have to run with that and the original seat belts, obviously. But otherwise, they're all in. They feel excellent. I think they're going to pass if they need to be passed by engineering. But for now, I'm happy that they're in. The last thing to be done is fix up the bottom of this where those wire were that hold up the cushion, the sponging or whatever, the foam. Finally got it out. But other than that, they're all good. Obviously they need to be reupholstered, but they'll be done later on. Catch us on the next one.